Welcome to another Film Frack exclusive interview special. And welcome to the first time that you're laying your eyes on these beautiful mugs.
You're so lucky.
I'm Adam.
And I'm John.
And today we're here to talk to Andrew David Barker about his fantastic film called A Reckoning.
Yeah.
It's a low-budget, small British film that we talked about in episode 19. And rather than spoil the fun, let's get straight into the interview and enjoy learning about the film, and we'll see you afterwards.
John, you can take it away.
Oh, sure. So, first of all, welcome, Andrew, to this little Film Frack interview with you. I'm John.
I'm Adam.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, sir. So, I guess we'll just get right into it. We're here today to discuss your film, The Reckoning. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it.
A Reckoning is a post-apocalyptic film. It's a last man on Earth story about a last man who, to give himself a sense of normality, to hold on to his sanity, he basically puts together an entire village full of straw people. So he communicates to them as if they're his neighbours, his friends. He even teaches little straw people in school to hold on to sort of a day-to-day existence. But eventually his mind begins to crack and it all comes spiraling out of control. That's essentially what A Reckoning is.
Well, you just sort of answered one of my later questions for me just now, so that's actually helpful. It was more a question of the while we were watching it, I couldn't quite tell if it was post-apocalyptic or if he was just like a drifter who just sort of let go of his life and just started to lose his mind, and I liked that sort of loose ambiguity to it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people take different things from it. I mean, my wife was of the same opinion as you, that it could have just been a homeless man who decided to live like that. I think it's post-apocalyptic. I think it's end of the world thing. But yeah, people do take what they want from it, which is great.
Yeah,
I think it's also just because it's so thematically rich that, you know, you are kind of tackling the theme of loneliness in such a specific way. You are tackling the theme of isolation. At the same time, you're also tackling those themes of grief and loss. You know, him trying to let go of his family, for instance, you know, when he goes and trucks out into the snow and, you know, decides, fuck this shit, I'm coming back, you know, after a little while. But he's trying to let go of that past and trying to not let that, you get the impression that he's hanging on to a routine of some sort. That, you know, he definitely was a teacher before whatever happened. And I love that you never get into explaining that. You know, you took like what It Comes at Night did even one step further. Like, we've seen this story before, so we don't need to tackle the exposition of it. It's irrelevant. I'm more, you know, you were more, it seemed to me anyway, you were much more interested in the themes that scenario arose in rather than how you would get to that point. And the fact that you were so dedicated to not giving us any explanation, man, yeah, it's wonderful that you can read it as so many things. I never actually latched onto either post-apocalyptic or the homeless idea, where there were times though where it seemed like he was willfully wanting to be separate from society, and then at the same time he was so desperate for any companionship with those straw men and everything like that.
I mean, the other reading is that it could be in kind of a purgatory.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I was very interested in the sort of how you would cling on to your sanity, and for this character, his whole idea is to just live like he did in the old world, just give himself the day-to-day existence that we all have of getting up and going to work, and that kind of mundane existence gives him some center in, gives him something to hold on to, but he doesn't last.
Well, Leslie Simpson is fantastic in this movie. I have to admit, you know, once things started to get going, I wasn't sure if this movie was going to be for me, and you know, throughout the course of its progression, and him in general as an actor, like him, he managed to just draw me in throughout the whole film, and really kept me interested and intrigued as it kept going. And like you have this wonderful score that goes throughout too. This really simple score that just sort of just adds to the loneliness and the isolation, and it creeps in when it needs to, and then it's nice and subtle for the rest of the film. But him in general, like, it's just a movie with one guy on screen essentially for almost 2 hours, and I have to admit, it won me over, and I was totally captivated by the end, and really surprised the hell out of me. How did you come across this guy?
I mean, he is extraordinary in it. I mean, he's in this film by and large all the way through on his own, and with minimal dialogue, and to convey everything that he conveys with so little is quite extraordinary. It's an amazing performance, and to capture you, I mean, you can't take your eyes off him. And even when we were shooting it, I knew we had something special in Les. His performance is outstanding, which I wish more people could see it, just to see him.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. I don't think there's many people that could pull off what he did in that film. As to going back to how I met him, I actually interviewed him around the time Neil Marshall's Doomsday came out. He's in that. He was friends with Neil, and he was in a few of his films, a few of his early films. So I interviewed him. I was writing for an online magazine at the time, and the interview went fine. I didn't think anything of it. And then once I'd written it, we just kind of approached him. His name came up, and he really liked it, and he jumped on board. And it happened very fast. I mean, I wrote it, I think, in like the August, and we got Les in the October, and we were shooting by the following January.
Oh wow!
It all happened very fast, which is incredible to think that it's had such a slow trickle out into the world. There was all this intense activity for like 2 years of my life, and then it just sort of kind of stopped. But it's nice that it's getting picked up now.
Yeah.
When you talk about writing it over that time, was the script, like the dialogue, carved in stone at all, or was there a lot of improvisation on set? Like, were you had an outline, and then you would say action, and you'd see what would emerge from that?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very flexible. The script, because I'd had the idea of doing I've always loved post-apocalyptic films. And it had been in the back of my mind. I'd always wanted to make a feature film, and it had been at the back of my mind that if I was going to do a feature film, that's kind of the genre that I wanted to play in. But then I found the location before I actually wrote it. So the location was an old RAF base just outside of Nottingham.
That explains that. That was a question I had.
Yeah.
It was like a whole village just left to rack and ruin, and it was incredible. It was just a playground. It was a film set for me.
Yeah, that like as a character in the film, without a doubt. Next to Leslie, it's the other thing that emanates the most.
And so I wrote the story knowing that I was going to shoot there. So I worked on my limitations and crafted it around that place. And like I say, I worked on my limitations. So the reason why the film is like it is because there was no electricity there. There was no running water. There was no health and safety whatsoever. So I knew that we'd have to have generators going and all sorts, which is why it's a voiceover film. It's a narrated film because we couldn't record sound outside. Most of the dialogue scenes are all inside where we could control the sound a bit more. So everything was designed to be as simple as we could possibly make it, on a very, very, very ridiculously low budget. And so so in that sense, it had to be very flexible because we didn't really know what the location was going to throw at us. I mean, I went to the place a few times while I was writing it, but it was so vast that we'd always find new areas to play around in, to shoot. So we somehow remained on schedule. We even got ahead of schedule at times. So we'd say, "Oh, that place looks cool over there. Let's go and we'll figure something out and go and shoot something over there." And so it was always evolving. The basic structure of the film is how I originally wrote it. The dialogue and everything sort of came. Les had lived an awful lot. He made a huge contribution to the voiceover, which we recorded probably a year after we shot it.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
He just we had a script, but he just reacted to what he was seeing, and interjected whenever he felt right, and I just let him go with it, and he made it very personable, I think.
Was he really intense on set? Like, cause it just seems like it seems like you hear about like the whole method actor thing, and it just seems like a performance that would be really method actory and slightly kind of like insane on set.
Yeah, he can be intense. He's serious about what he does. He's great at what he does. But we had a lot of fun as well. We had an awful lot of fun. It looks like a pretty serious, hard-going film, but we had a lot of laughs on that film, which is amazing to think the location we were at and the weather we were dealing with. Yeah. We were all just mates together going to make a film. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. There's such a strong direction in the film, and I think a lot of that might have even come from what you're describing is just something that aesthetically must have been around all day, every day for you. I mean, living in that environment where you almost must have felt isolated and alone and detached from society while you were making it. I've got to ask, though, so why is it a lost film? Why didn't this film at least, I honestly hadn't heard a whisper about it or anything. I mean, as soon as I found out about it, I was really excited because I'm a big Dog Soldiers fan. I'm a big Descent fan. So Leslie was oh, wow, I'll watch this because he was great in those films in those small parts. But I remembered him even from tiny little moments on screen already. Yeah.
The short answer is that it's the kind of the age-old story of just a silly falling out with the financiers of the film. Because we made a lot of mistakes up front in that it was such a rush to make the film. We knew we had the location, so in that that time period, we shot for 2 weeks in the January. We got Les. We just went for it, and in that rush and in my desire to just go and make a film, we forgot about the business side of things. As often
that does happen.
All the time. I've heard so many stories since it happened to me. I've heard so many stories of this happening. No contracts were signed until after the fact. Then everyone fell out, and it just went on. It was this whole horrible battle. But of course, we were doing this on such a low budget, and because I was getting into so much debt making the film that nobody had any money to take anyone to court. So it just sort of ended up in this legal limbo, and at the end of it, I was pretty much burnt out and kind of walked away. To be honest, I walked away from the film, and I walked away from filmmaking for a long time, and it's such a shame that no one really got to see it at the time. And because of that, I really wanted to get into festivals with it, but for some reasons that I still don't fully understand, the financiers didn't want to see it come out. So they blocked it from going into festivals. And so it's never had an official release. It's kind of out there, if you know now, but I'm kind of just using it as a show reel now. It's a shame. I really wish we could get an official release one day, but without someone really getting behind it and being able to sort out this mess, I don't know how that would happen. But it's a sad tale. But it pains me to see how common a story it is.
I'll gladly share one with you right now. That's very similar.
Oh, okay.
A group of friends and I made a film about 7 years ago now, I think, and it took us 5 years to make. We made a full-length documentary film, and we did that whole thing. We jumped right in, we shot it, and took us 5 years of our lives. And by the time the movie came and released, we released it in a film festival. And we went through several film festivals after that, but when it came time to actually do something with the film, we hadn't done any of the back end stuff. Like, we hadn't done any of that. So It was, who does what, legally, how is this going to work? We need to get rights for this, and this, and then it's going to cost this, and this. None of us have it. And here's our movie online for free now because that's, what are you going to do? Like, it's a lesson, that's a hard lesson learned in 5 years of your life.
Absolutely. And it was an absolute stupidity on my part. And yeah. Next time, I'll
It's a tough lesson. It really is a tough lesson.
It's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson to learn. I mean, I went to Cannes in 2009 and 2010. In 2010, when I took the film out, that the film was done, and I was just trucking it around, just walking the streets basically, and banging on people's doors, you know, that kind of thing in Cannes. Anyway, the point is, on the Friday night when I got there, I met Mark Price, who made Colin, the famous 45 quid zombie film. And he was just going out there with his film on the Friday night. I was going out with mine. We were nobodies. Then I saw him again on the Sunday. And during that weekend, he just said in the press, like an off the cuff remark, oh, this film cost 45 quid. By the Sunday, I saw him again and he was like famous. Like the whole world's media were like interviewing him. And then I watched him then. I'm still friends with him, you know. But I watched him then go round the world with his film. He went to Japan. I think he went to Australia. All over the world. He got a lot of coverage. Scorsese was talking about him. George Romero mentioned him. Oh, nice. And I was at home. I was at so much debt. I actually got a job washing dishes. And I made a film. I was washing dishes, watching Mark go around the world. And I was thinking, how has this happened? Oh. And it was, yeah. So it's taken me a long time to get back to a place where I want to make films again, which is where I am now. So that's
good. That's good that you're.
I mean, you obviously, especially you talked about the budget limitations and things. I'll tell you now, there was moments in those films I was just really impressed with the vision that you were creating, and I could tell that you had this limit. But I mean, a really great example of that is the practical effects you managed. That scene with the foot, when he's pulling the stuff out of the foot, I'll tell you now, the effects on that scene and the way that looked as a sense of realism, I was squirming, and I wasn't squirming in that gooey, gory way. I was squirming in that you've created an effect that makes me actually feel the pain. And obviously a lot of that comes down to performance of Leslie, but it also comes down to just, I mean, you're the dude in charge. You got a really great special effects guy, and you put the camera in just the right place with just the right lighting. So that moment really affected me more than a lot of horror films.
I did have a great effects lady, Hannah Eccleston, who's actually, I made a short film years before, and she came and worked on that, and she did great prosthetics. And then she went off and she worked on big films. Like she worked on Apocalypto. She was out in Mexico for like a year and stuff, and X-Men and stuff. And then I kept in touch with her, and she's got some great Mel Gibson stories. But anyway, she came back from all that, and I was gearing up to do this film, and I just dropped her a line. I said, "I'm doing a film. Do you want to come and play on my little film again?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Yeah, but you've worked on like X-Men and Mel Gibson films. Why are you gonna want to come and play on with me?" And she went, "That's fine. I'll come and do that." And she did it for nothing, you know, and you know, just the cost of all her gear, you know. And she's brilliant. She's worked on loads of stuff since then. And so if I ever make another film, I hope to get her back. But she's brilliant, so she could do anything. So I got very lucky knowing her.
To touch on what Adam was just saying about the effects and like the working within your limitations, you know, towards the end, like you have these really. Adam and I were talking about this last night when we were just sort of preparing, but like the gorgeous sunset shot that you have at the end. For me, it got me reminiscent of like the John Borman Excalibur, like at the end, you know, like at the end of that movie, it's got that gorgeous sunset shot and the music kicks in at just the right time, and it's just like it has like this weird effect, this trance-like effect, and I found like a similar aspect of that. It's just like the colors. I was just like, oh, this is really kind of trippy.
Well, especially against all the greys and everything, and you know this decayed urban environment that you've set it in. So visually, you know, you've got this one sort of visual tone coming through, and then to have, you know, this suddenly this blast of just nature's beauty, and that, you know, it doesn't matter where this guy lives and he's lonely and alone. There's just suddenly this unassuming beauty that comes through, and it's because of that way that decaying grey environment has been, you know, just eating into our eyes for the last amount of time with him.
Thank you. That's great to hear. It means a lot. There's a lot of alchemy to this film, I think, because we got lucky in a lot of areas. We got lucky with the location. as hard as it was to shoot there, it looks very grand. And then we got lucky when the snow came, which was about day 3 of our shoot, and boy did it snow. I mean, it really snowed. I think it was the biggest snow we had certainly in Middle England for years. We haven't had snow like that since, and so that just made the place look even grander, even more epic, gave us more scope, and looked fantastic. I mean, it was cold, man. It was cold, but it was great. And so we got lucky there, and then on the last day of the shoot, we went up north to Middlesbrough, which is where Les was living at the time, and we shot all the end sequence, so the sun and the beach stuff. And again, we looked out there. We got up very early, and there's this we went up on this ridge, and we can't plan this, but the sun came up behind this ridge. So I had 2 cameras. We were just scrabbling around to try and shoot this stuff. We shot as much as we possibly could. I was shouting. We didn't have any walkie-talkies or anything. I was shouting from one ridge right over to the other side, going, let's walk over there. Get in the middle of the sun, and just screaming at him, and just managed to get all that stuff. So it's all in camera. It's just incredible. I don't know how we managed it. But yeah, we got very lucky with all those elements. Probably shouldn't say that, because that's sort of, taking away the magic. I don't know, but yeah, that's what happened.
Speaking about the end of the film, there was sort of an ambiguity that I didn't quite know what to make of. Is when he runs into the group of I don't know if they're like vagabonds or drifters, or it was like a weird cult or what was going on there. But after his after he comes across them, he's like visually, he's roughed up. So that was the one element that, there's moments in the movie where, you're not sure if it was, him losing his mind, or if this person was actually there, and then you find out it was him, losing his mind. But in this instance, it seems like he's visually like roughed up a bit. Like it seems like that was a real encounter, and it just sort of, I wasn't quite sure like what was that all about really. Was it like a roaming cult or something like that?
Good question. I probably didn't get this across. I think that's probably the most unclear thing of the film, is that they're supposed to represent all the straw people that he's burned, which is why some of them are charred.
Okay.
And why they have a physical impact on him is what I was trying to get across there, was that it was just the general decay of him that was suddenly manifest.
See, I was curious about that, because there was that point where it seemed like that could be the straw people as well, but it was also, there was never an instance where after the confrontation, like, he was visibly roughed up. So that's the only reason I questioned whether it actually happened or not. So that's interesting to.
Yeah, there's some elements of that film that are a bit strange. I've got to say, it may have turned out stranger than I thought, but we were just rolling with the punches and kind of finding it as we were shooting.
It all works for the film, though. It really does. All those strange bits really do help to enhance the film and just make his descent even more,
it makes it very engaging. And your choice with the voiceover, I find it interesting that that possibly that wasn't the initial intent, because that voiceover really gives you that internal monologue of you constantly being in his head, allows you to be experiencing kind of the psychological trauma, shall we say, that he's going through. And there are those times when it does drift in and out. And I must admit, I was kind of clinging to the fact you started the film with that Poe quote, the dream within a dream thing. So when in doubt, I kind of got lazy and went, okay, well, this is just a dream within a dream next. And then it wasn't until it actually finished that I started really dwelling on, some of the nuances that might be, it wasn't just a dream within a dream. It might have actually been really happening.
Yeah. I think the film is mainly about madness and loneliness and how the two can affect each other. There's a lot of ambiguity to the film, and hopefully hopefully it just retains its mysteries. You know, it lets you take what you want from it. I also think it's quite a hopeful film, because it's also about survival, how someone could survive and endure in such a harsh, barren environment on their own, and sort of cling on to the world that we know, and use that as a grounding, a center.
And take out your homicidal rage and torment on strawmen, which is much better than people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite things I remember shooting was when Les smashes up that room, where he gets himself all prepared. He puts the goggles on and the gloves and fires the generator up and starts smashing that room up, which of course he really did, and he really went for it because he's Les. And there might have been a few cuts and scrapes, and it was amazing because I put my B camera Dan in there with him, and we all hid outside. So because it was so small in that room, I could only put Dan in there and Les and just let them go, and we were kind of listening outside and watching the monitor, and the amount of times Les was swinging that bat right by Dan. I'm sure he caught him a few times, but it was good fun. Like I say, no health and safety on this film. It's proper guerrilla filmmaking.
Well, you'd mentioned that you haven't done a film in a while, and the hardships of this have sort of you've had to rebuild that passion again. And I also understand you've written a few novels. Are you currently writing again or preparing any films? Are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, I am writing, and I've basically been gearing up to take next year to step back into filmmaking. It's been a long time. Yes, I've been writing novels, and that's been very satisfying to get those out, and they've been quite well received, The Electric and Dead Leaves. But the fire, the filmmaking fire, has returned. It's taken a long time, and it came and went over the years, but it's come back with a vengeance. So I'm going to start off small. I've written a few short films that I'm going to shoot in the early part of next year. Really simple stuff, just to ease me back in, 2 characters in a room type films. And then hopefully build up to doing another feature. So that's basically my plan for next year. And it's lovely that the A Reckoning is now getting a bit of attention. And it seems to be gaining some kind of momentum, and it's very encouraging and inspiring to me for this to be happening now, just as I'm thinking of coming back and sort of stepping back in the game.
You should, man. You should. I have to admit, you won me over on this movie, and I'm one of those people. When it started, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work for me, and then it just I have to. It's a good film, man. You made a good movie. You did.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Yeah, it means a lot. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, because it's been a long time of having nothing, so it's lovely to actually have some people, some feedback and people liking it. It really means a lot.
So for the listeners who want to see the film, where do you want them to go and see the film? I mean, obviously we ended up with a YouTube link for it. Is that where you want us to send?
Yeah, it's just there. It's just on YouTube. Just type in A Reckoning film and it'll come up. Like I say, no one's making any money out of this film. It's just there as a show reel for me now, or for Les, or for anyone really. It's just there for people to hopefully discover. So yeah, hopefully it can keep being seen, and having a reaction. That'll be great.
Well, it's been fantastic speaking to you. Been wonderful to pick your brain about the film. I watched it on Monday night, and it's been on my mind since I watched it. Just swelling around with me, which is a sign of a great film for me. It's something that actually resonates, and I found myself going back to a few moments and thinking about them, and obviously, as you do, inserting your own kind of truths on top of things. And yeah, so congratulations on really delivering a great film on what is obviously a restrictive budget. And I can't emphasize enough how much that location was just so important to it too. Yeah. it really, really added something.
We like I say, it was an alchemy to it. We got very lucky with a lot of elements. You know, you've got that location, you've got Les, you've got the snow, and you know, hopefully, I had a story, and it all came together. I had a great crew. Most of them, everyone was working for nothing, and everyone wanted to do something quite unique. And just it's just a shame it's taken this long for people to see it, but it's there. It exists. It's always going to exist now. You know, we've made the film, and hopefully, people will keep finding it and discovering it, and hopefully one day we can actually see a proper release of it. That's my dream. That's the goal. But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And good luck with what comes next. Looking forward to seeing more from you. Really, like I'm genuinely curious to see what you come up with next. It's gonna be awesome to watch you progress as a filmmaker and see what happens.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
All right,
Have a wonderful day.
I've got to go and do it now. I will. I've got to go step back out into the world and get stuff done. Yeah.
That's how it happens, man.
Yeah, I'm in the day job office right now.
Basically spent the last couple of years just sitting in I've got a writing shed, so I've just been in there, just hid away, just typing away, and it's time to go out and have some fun again. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Andrew was an absolute pleasure to speak to.
It was a cool guy.
It was like a meeting of kindred spirits. Quite frankly, I mean, you guys got a bit of the interview. We ended up bullshitting about films for another half an hour afterwards.
Yeah.
Just in general, he's a film lover. He's a filmmaker, and he's someone who really appreciates the art of cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like this interview, be sure to check out more of our interviews that we have on. They're up on filmfrack.com right now.
Oh, actually, and we're going to be putting up an interview with Mr. Leslie Simpson, who we've discussed in this interview just now. He's the star of A Reckoning. He was also in Dog Soldiers and The Descent. And quite frankly, it's one of the most interesting interviews I've ever read, even
It really is.
even if it wasn't one of my own. I can't tell you the little treasures and gems you're going to get out of it. We did that one via email.
He's an interesting dude.
Yeah, I really want to have a beer with him someday.
And it's someone, like we were talking about earlier, someone would wind up getting stabbed, I'm sure, in that bar that we were having a beer at. He's an interesting
If
guy.
history is to go by, it will be me. I mean, I have been stabbed, so it's probably... Actually, statistically, because I haven't, it's probably you now.
Oh, I'll take that turn. Sweet. Be a good story.
Well, on that happy note, we're going to thank Andrew for giving us the time, and thank you very much for listening to us and tuning in, and hopefully our faces haven't scared you away and you'll come back next time.
We're a delight. All right. Thanks, guys.